Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our webinar today. Today, I'm super excited to have Mike on this week's session. So today's topic is scaling global finance teams using AI. So we're very lucky to have Mike with us, who's actually done the transformation of building an AI running finance department, given the fact that there's a lot of complexities that he's having to deal with as well. We'll have a bit of today's session is going to be more of a conversation. So we'll have a bit of a Q&A at the end. So please put your questions and answers at the end of the webinar, and we'll answer it there and then. Very pleased to have Mike Newton join us today. So Mike is a CFO of a company called 𝗚𝗏 Technology, where they help companies scale globally through smarter hiring and international employment solutions. So if you're looking to scale up, you want to hire someone from the overseas, whether it's South America or Philippines or Europe, they are the ones who can help you with that, not only providing human resource, but also looking after the process as well. He's also had a number of roles, senior financial roles as well. And you was even the deputy finance director at the NHS, Mike.
I was, so for my sins.
So you've gone through quite a number of industries and different company types. I'm super pleased to have a lot of your experience. Anything else you want to add in terms of your introduction, Mike?
No, I think you've summarised that well. Thanks very much. Nice to meet you. Nice to see everyone.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm Rayhan. I'm the co-founder of Taxstar. We're a tax technology company, and Alpha Pro Partners, we're a bookkeeping firm. I will jump right into it. And so today's session is going to be, we can't give you a demo because there's sensitive information, but we'll go through the journey that Mike went to use AI to automate his finance department. Now, one of the things that I do want to take into consideration is you may have a lot of Q&A at the end, so please put those in there so then Mike can answer them, because he's been through the whole cycle of manual processes to automating using AI, not just systems, but also AI as well. And one of the things that we're looking to do at our bookkeeping company anyway is we're also looking to automate a lot of our processes using AI to kind of make the whole manual process eliminated and to ensure that our accountants are as superhuman or super accountants as possible. So I will jump into it. So Mike, do you want to just give us a quick introduction of what 𝗚𝗏 does? How do you help founders and CFOs navigate challenges of scaling internationally?
Yeah, sure. Thanks very much. So 𝗚𝗏 helps high growth companies scale internationally in two ways. Firstly, we help them hire the right people. So it's mainly senior and go-to-market talent through our executive search offering. And then secondly, we help employ those people anywhere in the world through our employer of record solution. So for those that aren't familiar with employer of record, in simple terms, we act as a legal employer in country. We handle payroll, all the compliance and all the employment. So our clients don't need to worry about doing that themselves. It really helps companies enter new markets quickly and test them properly and scale without taking any unnecessary costs or risks up front. So typically the problems we see for scaling businesses are two main pain points. The first is hiring, so hiring the right people in the right countries. What we typically see is a lot of companies rely heavily on job adverts and inbound CVs. They don't map the market properly, and that really slows down building the right team at the right pace. And then the second is the operational side of employing people globally. So once you move beyond a couple of countries, you're dealing with entity of setup, local compliance, payroll, tax considerations, transfer pricing, cross-border payments, anti-money laundering. Everything gets really quite complicated, and that all adds to the overhead. So what the issue for CFOs and founders generally, because the CFOs particularly are normally the people at the forefront of setting these things up. They'll either try to set up the entities themselves, which brings cost, complexity, and ongoing compliance overhead, or they'll try to use a company like us that are more automated platforms, and they'll often be great at scale, but they'll lack the support, which when something doesn't quite fit the model. And it tends to be the CFOs that spend most of their time trying to fix problems when things go wrong, and they get bogged down in all the operational issues and the payroll queries. So our solution, we bring both sides together. We in summary, we help find the right people in the market quickly, and then we employ them on behalf of our clients. We try to see ourselves as more of a partner than a platform. So a lot of solutions are highly automated. If something goes wrong, you're stuck in ticket loops, which is no good for anyone. So we give all of our customers direct access to a designated customer support representative who can help you on your journey.
So thanks for sharing that. So obviously, if we then look at that from an accountant's point of view or CFO point of view, you're dealing with a very large payroll system or payroll transactions. I'm sure you have a lot of AP as well. You have multiple customers that you're billing as well. So running or managing a finance function as a CFO sounds like it's very complicated as well.
Correct. Yeah. So, well, I mean, that's kind of the point. We take on that complexity. So we have all of the support network. We have all the experts in each country. So to be honest, it is complicated. I mean, I've literally just come off a call about advanced transfer pricing agreements in the UAE. We have like massive amounts of transactions going through the UAE as one of our central hubs, and we'll have to consider that as a key business risk moving forward.
Cool. No, thanks for that. So now let's get into more AI and finance. Obviously, you've got a lot of experience, as a CFO, managing many different companies and industries. So you come with not just, AI, but you also come with the breadth of experience, which means that you're probably one of the best people to advise on how to use AI, having gone through many different finance functions and looked at different aspects and looked at systems as well. So when you're talking to other CFOs, many CFOs do shy away from finance in general, does shy away from technology, and there are few who do bear the torch on bringing technology into the finance function. But most accountants that I know, they shy away from it. So what kind of advice would you give a CFO when it comes to AI, and how should they approach it to automate some of their functions?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think as a starting point, everyone in finance, CFOs, and even junior staff, we have to acknowledge that AI is not optional anymore. So I've seen in the last 6 months, the acceleration has been amazing. I think it's coming whether we like it or not, unfortunately. So for those that aren't comfortable with it, I feel like they need to get comfortable. And I think people in your teams are probably using it, whether you know it or not. So you really need to, I'll come on to it, but you really need to crack down on the controls around AI, because there really is a risk to IP and data protection in there. I think the opportunity is absolutely enormous. So particularly for CFOs and finance leaders, making their teams more efficient, automating processes and speeding up analysis, reducing errors. You can do that stuff with just normal LLMs, which are large language models like ChatGPT or Claude. I agree, finance is really, really behind in adopting it. So a lot of marketing functions, legal functions just have AI as like a core part of their business processes now. I think finances are really quite far behind. I think from my own experience, what I've found, because I've gone through a real journey of learning about AI and using it and applying it to different business functions. I think the advice I would give is start small. What I found from my own experience is, so I'm in a scale up myself at the moment, and I tend to find myself flicking between very strategic work and very operational work. And to be honest, a lot of the things that I spend time doing, I probably shouldn't be spending time doing, but for whatever reason, there's not the capability in the team to automate these things. So I have used the AI to free up a lot of time in these processes by automating them. I mean, I'll come on to it later, but Claude Code I discovered about 4 weeks ago. I probably spend about 10% of my time now using that to automate business processes that I don't want to have to do manually, or I don't want the team to have to do manually. So I think it's a massive opportunity from that point of view. I think as you start implementing AI, it's important to bring the teams with you. As you said, there's a lot of resistance to it, to be honest. People don't like the idea of change anyway, particularly when the rhetoric around AI is about it taking people's jobs. So I think if you bring people with you and you can show the teams the benefits of AI, I think it's important to encourage usage as a finance leader, particularly as I think ultimately is where the function's going. But then I think critically, the control side around the data is really important. And I think I could see the CFO being the guardian of this, to be honest. So anyone who's using personal AI accounts, you need to be like really careful whether they're doing this or not. We were lucky because we locked this down early, but I've heard horror stories of companies having, their IP, their code base uploaded into large LLMs, and then employees just leaving and taking the IP with them. I think you need to understand how what you're inputting into the AI is interacting with the larger model. There's like certain configurations you can set that means your data is protected and safe. So you need to be really clear on that. And I think also proper controls. When you get to the point of using Claude Code and actually writing scripts to automate processes and interact with some of your ERPs and whatever, you need to make sure the access control is correct so that you've not got an apprentice accidentally overwriting 6 months of data in your ERP because you've like given them right access, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I guess one of the reasons why finance is slow to react is if you compare finance to marketing and probably even law, is we're very much a rules-based type function profession, and controls is really important. And I guess that instinct is important as a profession, because if we don't have controls, you kind of look at the accounting profession and see, why do you need an accounting profession, right? But at the same time, I guess you kind of have to use that hat, go into AI and see how you can use it for your benefit, which, the way you've just demonstrated, you know that there are certain boundaries that we have to adhere to, but you were able to find certain functionality within the AI where it helps you do that. And I think that's an encouragement to other CFOs as well.
Yeah.
Going to the next question. So the first part of the AI transformation was automating your accounts payable process. Why did you choose accounts payable rather than, say, accounts receivables, or I don't know, balance sheet recs, or doing your depreciation or amortization on prepayments? Why was it the accounts payable that you felt that was the first part of your journey?
Yeah, so I mean, there are a couple of reasons why. So we had an existing solution in our accounts payable, and it wasn't very sophisticated, but it served as a good workflow to get invoices from all of our entities into the ERP, which was NetSuite, or which is NetSuite. The issue is so we chose AP really because of the complexity. It's the most resource-heavy part of the finance team. It's highly complex, and because of the nature of our business, there's a little bit of a key person risk, because there's a few people processing a lot of the transactions. And just to kind of give an idea of the volumes that are going through. So it's not big volumes, but we have about 400 invoices per month across all 17 subsidiaries, and all of our accounts payable is managed centrally from the UK. And a good chunk of our accounts payable transactions are relating to employer of record invoices from our partners. or from like internal invoices from our own wholly owned subsidiaries, because everything needs to be. What we tend to do is we tend to invoice the end customers from our 3 main hubs, which is UK, UAE, and Singapore. But obviously, there's a big infrastructure underpinning that with lots of intercompany transactions. So we, just to explain the complexity a little bit more, because it's payroll, we have to input the information into our ERP by line item, purely to get the analysis we need, to obviously feed all the analytics on our platform, but then also to invoice the customer with the required level of detail on the sales invoice. So lots of data into the system to make all that possible. So we've got tags for contract references, location, line items, currencies, and there's the other part of the complexity is how we receive invoices from our suppliers. So obviously we configure our own entities the way we want to, but any external partners, they'll come in totally different formats. They'll come, with the backing information, in an Excel spreadsheet, in a separate email with a password, perhaps with, the information in the email body. They might, the structure of the invoices will be totally different to how we need to input them into our system. So there is a lot of complexity around that. And what that meant was for the 400 invoices that were going through accounts payable, our existing system was like perfect for recognizing their header information. So like the supplier and the currency and the date and the invoice number. But in terms of that level of detail that we're required to put into our ERP, they were having to manually code each one of those lines manually in our incumbent provider. So I'd actually gone to market because it was a bit of a risk as we were scaling. Every single invoice was done manually. So, double the size, we would have to double the number of people, like very simply. I was going to market to find something that was more scalable. This was last year. And as as AI was beginning to emerge, I was looking specifically for an accounts payable solution that had AI native built in that could support with the line level transactions, not just the header level information, and then actually build an integration with NetSuite. I think, if I'm honest, I really struggled. So I interviewed like maybe 3 or 4 companies, and even though they said they had AI, it wasn't really AI. It was kind of just, automation or like advanced automation, or they couldn't deal with the integration with NetSuite properly. So it went to nothing. And I went to a conference in London, and I met somebody at the after event drinks, and I was basically complaining about this problem that I was having, just to see if he'd heard anyone. He said to me, "Oh, I've actually got a company that I know that it specialises in identifying parts of an accounts system, or like an accounts department, called 𝗠𝗶𝗸𝗲 and why don't we have a chat?" Anyway, so we went through that with them, that process, and it turned out that they were an accredited AWS partner with Amazon, and we actually managed to secure funding for a pilot, $50,000 from Amazon. Essentially that de-risked it totally for us. It made it a much easier decision. So then we agreed what the pilot would look like, which was just the UK, and then went forward with it.
Nice. I guess that's a typical journey that a lot of accountants and CFOs take when looking for a system. And even I'm in the startup world, and every startup has AI next to it, right?
Yeah.
AI, and that can be frustrating. Having said that, we do use Xero, and Xero is starting to add AI to their system as well, but it's more analysis and process, which is useful. But I guess in this context, we want to automate process more than anything else. So that now that you've obviously explained the problem and the way you found your solution, I want to talk more about the implementation and how that looked, because obviously there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration when automating a finance function using AI. As I mentioned before, you have the issues with privacy you're based in the UK, so you've got GDPR issues as well that you have to overcome, and making sure that it's not the data that you give it is not teaching other LLMs and it's not available somewhere else, as well as everyone hears about AI hallucinations. So how was the implementation for you? How long did it take? What were the challenges that you found, and what was some of the your success stories that you were able to that if you can share those?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So I think, to be honest, largely it wasn't that dissimilar to any other system implementation. I would say the key standout point was how much quicker it was done. So we actually went. So I met this guy in July, signed the contracts and everything, applied for the funding, got the proof of concept funding from Amazon, agreed what the proof of concept would look like, what the key deliverables were. By October, we had a fully functioning MVP of our accounts payable agent working in the background. So, in a period of just like 3 or 4 months, we'd managed to get from defining the problem to a totally bespoke solution. Which is if you did that traditionally and you went to an outsourced company to do a totally bespoke solution, you could be talking up to a year to really get something credible and
worth. Incredible.
Yeah, well, exactly. If you get something credible, so I think for us, we were lucky because the way that I designed our NetSuite instance and because of how much detail we need to put on the invoices, we had a lot of quality data in NetSuite anyway, like a lot of business intelligence. So what we actually did was we defined like 4 personas for this agent, depending on the different type of supplier invoice we had, and that would be like an intercompany transaction, an EOR partner, a normal supplier invoice like rent or something, or intercompany recharge. And because each one of those invoices are kind of handled in a slightly different way, and the agent was struggling to differentiate at first. So I think it's all about putting the right context around the persona. So in a similar way a salesperson would, they'd be looking at a CFO or a CEO or whatever. So we defined the personas, and then we actually hooked up the sandbox for the agent to our sandbox NetSuite, which we refreshed, and our live accounts payable solution, like the incumbent one. And the agent spent the whole time we were designing the actual solution, they spent all that time just actually trawling through the transactions and getting the context for how we would code our information. So, I mean, that was really useful having that data. And yeah, we built the integration with NetSuite. That was really easy. That took about a month. Again, that would take a long time in other scenarios. But I think the part that took the longest, the part that we struggled with the most, was actually because an agent sounds great, but I think it needs coding level support in the background. So it's like basically to interpret what it's doing. So the part that took us the longest was to actually build the interface for how my finance team would communicate as lay people with the agent, and obviously and then to build the controls around that. So I wouldn't put invoices in without somebody checking it, to be honest. So that ultimately the agent would do whatever it did, but someone in the finance team would still have to say, yes, I agree, that's okay. Because as you say, the controls are important. But yeah, I think that took the longest of all of it. I think some of the key issues that came out from it were the agent often was actually, when we were testing it, we found the agent was actually doing things how I would deem correctly. But then, because the teams were kind of doing things inconsistently month on month. The context it was using was it was finding it difficult to know what the actual right answer is, because over 10 months, the team might have coded it slightly differently in 10 different ways.
So it was confused between, am I on the side of the team or am I on the side of the CFO?
Well, yeah, exactly. So the team were basically, it was just not clear. It's like, what do you actually want me to do? Because you've over the last 10 months, you've done 10 different things. So yeah, that was useful to know that was actually happening. And we went through a whole period of like standardizing the processes between people to actually get the most out of the agent. We've got, I think on the next slide, we've got like a little like a screenshot of the agent if you want to pull that up.
Yeah. Before I get to that, I just want to touch upon the privacy issues and obviously GDPR as well. What was some of the challenges you found from that point of view, and how were you able to overcome them? So for example, I think you mentioned making sure that the LLM is not learning from the data that it's kind of reviewing. So how do you safeguard that?
Yeah, this is obviously a big thing for us because it's payroll specifically. So it's always at the front of our minds, I'm not sure if it would always be at the front of people's minds in the businesses, but because we're payroll, we have to just think about it day in, day out. But so the company we use is obviously all contractual, but we, because they have an enterprise license with the LLMs that they use. So the LLMs that back our AP model are Gemini and Claude and Bedrock. The enterprise licenses by default never remember and never share any information.
Right.
So it's not quite the same as just, if I put a load of invoices into ChatGPT, it might get shared somewhere. It's probably not secure or safe. Whereas these enterprise licenses, if you pay the money for a proper license, you can kind of guarantee that your data is safe and secure.
So that means that you would, as a CFO, you would probably need to, you can't just do it on your own. You probably do need some sort of support, especially if it's sensitive information that you're using to process. You'd need a partner to help you who does have the enterprise access.
Yeah, I think you could still, as a layperson, you can still do it. Like the level that we've done it to with our agents, probably not. But you could still use ChatGPT. You can still use normal Claude. You can still use Claude Code. It's just essential to make sure that you've turned off the allow the model to learn, allow others to learn from your data. Because what that essentially means is when you put your data into the system, it sends it back to Claude head office and ChatGPT head office, and they use that to train the model. So as long as that's turned off, your data's secure in the model. But I think by default it's not turned off, so you need to just be aware of that when you're using it.
I guess it's like you need to have the same mindset as your social media accounts, right? And WhatsApp, where by default a lot of these social media platforms are publicly accessible, but you have to then go in and find the ways to switch them off. And I guess that's also a learning experience that as a CFO you need to make sure that you implement, and you have maybe as part of your checklist when you're implementing an AI chatbot. So here is the slide for what obviously the AP agent does. Do you want to just go through this? Obviously we're not sharing too much information, but do you want to just go through the slide?
Yeah, sure. So apologies for not being able to do a live demo, but because of obviously the sensitivities around payroll data, I can't really disclose it because it's got people's names and stuff in it, their salaries. So but this is what the interface looks like for the agent, the one that the finance team actually interacts with. So on the left hand side is just our subsidiaries, and that tracks invoices that have come in. So it just tries to rationalize everything, so it's not in one big list. And then we've got the actual statuses at the top. So everything that's completed and sent to NetSuite's completed. Anything that's waiting for somebody to do something with is in waiting, and you can filter those out. What's also really useful in here, to be honest, with some of the configurations we've done, is So where it's not an invoice, like if somebody is sending a chaser email or something like that to the central inbox, it recognizes it's not an invoice, and it flags it for you to check before deleting. And then another useful thing is if somebody sends something with a password, the agent will actually read the password and use the password to open the document and then download it into the system. So that's really helpful as well. Similarly with a link, if it's like a link to an invoice in the body of the email, it would like click the link, and the agent just knows that because we've trained it to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas before, what we would find is the like the team would have invoices being sent to their personal accounts. Well, not their personal accounts, but their work personal accounts. And then they would be sat there until they forwarded onto the central inbox because they would have to download it and put the passwords in before. So it's creating a bit of a risk because, you know, if someone forgot to forward it on, you know, we end up not paying the supply chain properly.
Yeah. In terms of now that we've obviously spoke about the discovery, the implementation, some of the issues that you faced, we've seen a sneak preview of how the AI agent works for the function. What was the main teething issues that you found in the early stages? Obviously, I'm sure there were bugs. There were certain things that the AI agent wasn't doing correctly. We obviously spoke about which side of the politics does the AI agent follow? Is it going to follow the team? Is it going to follow the CFO? What other things did you able to did you come up with that you had to deal with to improve the agent?
I think the biggest issue we had which was around the accuracy of the invoices actually, was we probably gave it too much context too quickly. And so we gave it access to all the historical information and basically said, you know, for this contract reference, use any of this information. The turning point of it was we started to get the agent. Well, we standardized our processes internally by supplier. And then we actually got the agent to look at the context by supplier first, and then do a check of the last month only to like see. So in terms of like the flow it would take, it would have the context of how it would generally handle a supplier invoice, and then it would actually check the previous month like a person would to see how it was done when it wasn't sure. And then it would do another check.
You're surprised not everyone does that, by the way. Not every single accountant checks the previous month and how it was done. They still come back to you and say, "Oh, how do you do this invoice?" So
did you check last month? It's like the first thing, yeah. So we got it to do that, and that had a marked increase in the accuracy, actually. But then most of the other problems, to be honest, wasn't necessarily the agent. It was the integration with NetSuite and like, you know, we had things not quite working correctly. The tax codes weren't being populated correctly, or the fields weren't being correctly. But we were quite agile with it, so we were very careful with what we were doing, and especially at first with the first like 100 transactions, we were checking every single one, and then feeding back any issues to the developers, like any edge cases. You know, we had some issues with actually being able to recall the invoices after they'd been posted for a bit, and that was resolved. So they were the main problems, I would say.
I guess just like any other project, you'd need to still have some of the tech team be available during the post-implementation phase just to make sure that all of these edge cases, bugs have been resolved as well.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the company we used were great, I have to say. They were really good, really responsive.
You've obviously used it for NetSuite, but do you think there's any limitations on using it on other accounting softwares or ERPs in your experience? Or
no, absolutely not. No way. I think that it would just be building a different integration to it. So as long as, you know, I haven't used Xero that much, but I'm assuming it's relatively customizable. You could put like contract numbers in there if you needed to, so it would be the same. I think any system with an open API, the agent would be able to work with. anything without an open API, like, I don't know, like Sage 50, for example, it probably couldn't work with. But I mean, that's to be expected with any integration.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And then obviously you've shared this kind of table with us, and it shows us the volumes of kind of AP transactions that you've automated. What would you say is some of the key things from this table that our viewers should take home in terms of the way you've been able to automate one function of the finance function for Emerald?
Yeah, sure. So so the table itself just shows like the percentage of invoices in each of those accuracy buckets. So for example, November 2025, 11.4% of invoices were below 50%. So I think in terms of the accuracy, we only started tracking the accuracy in November. We went live in October. We started tracking the accuracy at the end of November, which is why there's only 44. So December was the first full month of accuracy, but at that point we were still in pilot phase, and we'd only got the UK on there, so like about probably half the volume. In March, we actually, you see a big dip in the accuracy in March. That's 100%. In March, we rolled out to all of the subsidiaries in one go. So we just migrated everything, all the other 16 of them. So you can see the key context for this table is the total volume. We're starting off at 238 in December, rising to 400 in April is the first, that's literally just last week, the first proper comparison. And you can see the amount the amount of invoices that are coded at 100% accurately, first time with no changes, in April 2026 is 49.2%. So nearly half of our invoices are going through with no intervention whatsoever. And what I would say is this is a high bar for accuracy that we've set as well, the developers have set. So even if you put a space in the description, we change the description, it marks it down for accuracy. So it just shows the scalability of the model. I mean, we've basically doubled the number of invoices and improved the accuracy. I expect that May will be, more accurate again. It's just really freed up the finance team's time to do other things, I'd say. And we've grown a lot in the last year. So like on a rolling 12 months basis, we've grown about 40%. And so, we were actively considering hiring another member of the AP team to handle the volume. Now we just don't need to, because it's taking a big chunk of that workload off them.
Yeah, no, that's a great point that you've come across. And this also obviously manages expectation as well. Just because the AI agent may not be as accurate as you want it to be from month one, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay like that. It's not a system that is linear. It's a system that is AI, right? So it will obviously improve as you feed more data to it. So I think this is quite encouraging, and it manages expectation in the sense that it's not going to get it right in month one, but you got to give it some time, and then you then be able to make the team a lot more efficient, and get more productivity gains from that point of view. From our side anyway, in our technology business, we're having the same conversations on, we don't want to hire more developers. We've got some very good developers. We want to keep those developers. We want them to continue to learn and improve their skills, but then we want to have them supported by AI, whether it's, code reviews or documentation or Q&A, all these other things that can be done with developers should be done. And it's the same with accountants. I'm sure, and the average AP doesn't want to do AP for the rest of their life, right? And they don't want to be working in a situation where they're having hundreds and hundreds of invoices that they have to enter all the time. It's the more interesting things that they can get on with, such as looking at payment kind of rules, and looking at ways to save money from using different banking providers, and providing you, the CFO, with analytics on what's going on with some of the costing and how can you save money. So I think there's a lot of value add that they can do with the help of AI, so they don't have to do all of the kind of, entering the numbers. And when you're doing the same thing over and over again, obviously sometimes you do make mistakes, because it's, we're humans at the end of the day, right? And we want to be able to use technology to eliminate that part and be more value added, have our functions to have more of a value added piece to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. On that table, I think, to be honest, that's I think for us that's the reality of retrofitting AI. So I think if you're starting off as a startup and you're building a brand new stack and AI is central to it, you probably get to a much higher level of accuracy much quicker. But we're obviously trying to shoehorn an agent into an existing process. I don't think it's ever going to be instant. So I agree that with that assessment of it, you have to set the expectation within the team, definitely.
Cool. Part two of our conversation, and we are coming up to time. So if you have anyone has any questions they want to answer, please write them in the comment section on the LinkedIn comment section. How has AI changed the speed and quality of reporting? So obviously, AP is the transactional side of finance, right? And obviously, as a CFO, you're dealing with reports, you're dealing with strategy, you're dealing with controls and process as well. When you present your numbers to the board, to the CEO, to investors, how has that changed for you in terms of quality, in terms of speed? What kind of things can you share that has helped you?
Yeah, so obviously it's slightly separate to the AP agent, but with some of the capabilities of the AI now, I've managed to totally automate our customer retention metrics. That process would take maybe 4 hours a month of going through and counting heads and working out the churn and the downgrades and everything by customer. So because we'd also have to put non-recurrent adjustments into it as well, and work out the real underlying position. So we've managed to get the AI to report that. Now it takes 5-10 seconds to do it, and it's accurate, and I've kind of gone through it. I think I've gone through it with the AI and kind of said to it, or basically told it the logic I would apply as I'm going, and then in tandem to that, it's able to write scripts and write Python scripts to actually do the code. So I think it's really helped me. I've managed to automate a lot of our board reporting specifically, and all of the non-financial KPI metrics. I'm kind of just working through that at the moment, but it's saving hours every month in time doing that. And then specifically so we obviously have 17 subsidiaries. The reality of that is we have local accountants in country running locally compliant accounts as well as our group accounts. So we obviously do all the bookkeeping in NetSuite. In Portugal, they have to have a compliant system. So we almost dual run the accounts in Portugal, and it's the same all over the world. Wow. Every year we have reconciliation issues where somebody's not sent an invoice to the accountant, and then we're there trying to figure out what the issue is. I would say that this year that process has been 50% faster, purely by using LLMs like ChatGPT to import the general ledger of the local accountant, the general ledger of our accountant, and just saying what's the difference, and then using the LLMs to draft emails back to the local accountants and saying to it, can you write this email like a native would, and explain it in a way that's natural in the native tongue. Helps us communicate more effectively with non-English speaking countries where they might not quite, when things are lost in translation, and things were often really quite confused when communicating with the accountants, and they would do things we wouldn't understand. But that's really helped that as well.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a really useful tool, because I remember back in the day, using like Excel to look for the discrepancies between two.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I don't do that anymore, but 10 years ago, if I could have AI to do all of that, I think I would have gone home earlier
Yeah.
and stay until like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, trying to figure out where the differences are in my reports. So you know, that's a game changer. So I guess, you know, maybe accountants can have a bit more work-life balance as a result, and maybe have the time to spend on doing their professional qualifications as well, with the support of AI. We are running out of time, so I'm just going to ask probably one more question, and then we'll wrap it up. I think we spoke about question 9 in the beginning. You spoke about Claude Code quite a lot today, and we had this conversation before we started the webinar. Do you want to, for the accountants, the CFOs who are not familiar on Claude Code and how they can use it, the way you've just described how you use it for reports and for looking at discrepancies between two GL accounts? Do you want to just give us a quick introduction of Claude Code and how a CFO can kind of use it?
Yeah, sure. So I discovered Claude Code about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and it honestly is amazing. What it does, it's not, well, it's the same company as Claude, but it sits natively on your computer. So you download it, and it does have like a chat prompt screen like an LLM, but the actual Claude Code part, you could get it to like, I don't know, like search your files, for example. It would like write scripts in the background and interrogate data. So what my recent project I've been using it for is like I use ChatGPT to help build or configure NetSuite so I could pull data out of it. And I used Claude Code to write scripts so I could extract the data I needed out of out of NetSuite. I've also used it to hook up to our HubSpot, and I've even got it looking at my emails. So like, we've got to do these sales emails every month. I haven't, the salespeople are watching this because I'm not supposed to write them. I basically get Claude Code to read the emails to see the deals that have been announced through the month, see who's done the deals, look at the previous context, and then it drafts an email for me that says that is basically, I mean, it was perfect last month, and just the whole sales, like, this is what you've done this month, well done everyone, and all that stuff. It's like very, very minimal checks. But I've been using it to hook up to NetSuite and then basically build Power BI ready CSVs and have like a semi-autonomous dashboard in Power BI for our investor metrics. So all the things I've been talking about, like customer retention, total headcount, you know, whatever else it is, all the headline financial metrics, it can like search your files and search the integrations with the ERP and look at HubSpot and pull it all into the information you want into CSVs, and then you can hook up Power BI to those CSVs and have like a semi-live dashboard. I mean, it's really amazing. And you would pay developers previously, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands,
easily,
like that easily. And I've done it myself with no coding experience whatsoever. So yeah, I think the lines are really going to start to blur between, you know, the CFO, the CTO, because I just think things like Claude Code is just giving you access to such a vast amount of knowledge without even needing the experience to use it. So it's amazing, to be honest.
Cool. No, thank you for sharing your journey and your expertise on what you've done at Emerald. I have a feeling you're going to get lots of people contacting you on advice, so I think you should charge them if they do that. I think what you've done is amazing. I think you know, there's not many CFOs, accountants that have gone through this journey, and I think you're one of the very, very few who've done that. So just want to say thank you for sharing your expertise and experience. we've obviously put your contact details on the final slide.
I thought it was wise, was it?
Yeah. So if you want to get in touch with Mike, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch? Would it be LinkedIn or?
Yeah, by email, LinkedIn, or telephone. To be honest, it's fine. Any of them's fine.
I think email is better because then the agent's going to answer it on your behalf.
Yeah,
right?
probably.
Yeah, I mean, we're coming up to the end of the session, so we'll probably skip the Q&A. I think you've covered quite a lot of information on adding AI to the finance function, and I think this session has really given an eye-opening on how the journey looks, because it's not, you go to a lot of AI type conferences and webinars and they're like, oh, use AI, it's amazing, but I think this session has really given the full journey. So yes, it's not plain sailing. In the beginning, it does take time for AI to learn the process. You kind of need to treat it as a new member of staff. So don't give it all of the information on day one, drip feed it, and slowly it kind of improves as you get along. And obviously treat it as a normal kind of finance transformation project as well. You need to have a consultant. You want to understand what your scope is. You then want to have post-implementation support to ensure that things that you haven't foreseen to happen in the planning stages, you're able to correct them as well. Any other final thoughts from your point of view, Mike?
No, I would just say that just to reiterate all the things that we've discussed, I think the key points are safety and security. So making sure it's configured to protect data, and so you're not accidentally leaking or leaking data out where you're not expecting to. And then the other important thing is, I would say, just start to try it and use it and see what the art of the possible is, because I honestly think it is coming. So I think in the future, the CFO will be the architect of the AI, because they're uniquely positioned in between all the different systems. So they know how everything fits together. And it's just an amazing tool to really, take your head out of the operational detail and pull you up at the strategic level.
Cool. No, thank you very much for your comments, and thank you for spending your time on this webinar. I think you've given us tremendous knowledge on the journey, and yeah, thank you very much.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Take care, Mike.
Take care.